You all have or should have a sheet. We're getting a little bit more, I don't know what word I want to say, doing things properly. So we have a sheet there for our next 3 lectures. The next one is part 2 by Innate James Doherty on the foundations of good health. November 16th, I'm going to be doing one on preparing for the cold and flu season. What to do to hopefully keep yourself healthy, and then what to do if something should get you. And then December 5th, it's going to be on a Saturday. We're going to be doing a talk on spectrum disorders, ADD, ADHD, Asperger's, and autism. And I'm excited about that. We've had a lot of people asking, but for 2 reasons. I'm going to be doing the talk with my daughter, who is a pediatric speech pathologist who works at a school in Newton Corner. In West Newton. Thank you, Ray. And she works with this population. It's a school from young grades, young kids, right through seniors. And she works with them not only on the speech side, but on the processing side for both them and the family and members. So she's going to be talking about showing, and I found it fascinating, it's helped me, what the person in the spectrum, how they're feeling and seeing all this input coming in, all the stimulation from the environment. And that's what a lot of times gets them so they get frustrated, or they have an explosion, or they can't concentrate. So she's going to be talking about how they see things and process them, and some tools that we can use to help them take a step back and diffuse the situation, break what we consider a simple task, which for us might be 4 different steps, but we do it all at once. For them, 4 steps at once is too much. So if you can see how they're processing it, you can help break it down, and it really makes it interesting. So I'm going to start off with nutrition and homeopathy and how that's beneficial. Then I'm going to enjoy sitting down and being taught by my daughter, which I think is pretty cool. Upstairs we do have sign-up sheets. As you can see, our lectures are getting busier and busier. The fire department will only let us have 50 people. We might exceed that by a couple tonight. And we don't want any problems with them, and we don't want people to be left out. So all we ask is either online or call the store. We just need to know who's coming. We'll call and remind you a day or 2 before, and you can let us know if you're not coming, so we don't have any problems. So that's that. On the back side, where our next big sale is going to be on Cyber Weekend. We're running 20% off everything. Friday for our Black Friday. Saturday is Small Business Saturday, and Sunday and Monday is Cyber Weekend. So Friday through Monday, anything that you buy online in the store, even if it's on sale, will be an added 20% off. I am recording this, and if technology works, it'll be up on our website, on the blog. And what I'd also like to ask all of you, if you think it would be helpful, I'm going to be blogging about this lecture, and what I would like is to get a discussion going for everybody. So you don't, on the blog, your name won't be posted. I have it set up so if we approve something, you wrote a comment, it'll put your comment, but it's not going to have your name and address and all that. And what I'd like is a discussion. If you thought something was helpful, if you do something differently, I'd like to know that, because none of us are too old not to be able to learn something. And if you are having a question or a problem, somebody else probably is too. So if we can get a discussion, it's our blog, but it really isn't. It's your blog. So we'd like to get discussions going on there. So please feel free to let us know. And are there any questions before we get rolling? Tonight's lecture is going to be a little different, I think. You can let me know afterwards. We're going to be talking about digestion, elimination, IBS, Gerd, a lot of the symptoms and what they mean, but I'm also going to be talking, as you can see, I have a lot of products here. I'm not pushing any products. I just want to show you for this issue, these are the type of things that could be helpful. Now, each of us is an individual, and what's right for you may not work for you, but the general areas, you'll have an idea of at least where to narrow down your search. And then we have all these products upstairs. You can look at the ingredients that are in them so you can see the breakdown. Fish oil isn't fish oil. There's good fish oil and bad fish oil, and low dose and high dose. And so you want to make sure you're getting the therapeutic dose, otherwise you're wasting your time and your money. So it's not that you have to buy this one from me, but you need to know what you're looking for, so when you go somewhere else and you're shopping and you look and say, oh yeah, but that only has 80 milligrams of EPA, I'd have to take 10 of them, because then it really isn't a good buy. So that's why the products are here. So we will be talking product and symptom and all that. So let's get going. Now the FDA is involved. I have to let you know that this presentation has not been reviewed by the FDA, and we're not making any claims that that anything that I talk about is going to treat or cure. This is all for information. Okay, irritable bowel can give you all these different symptoms: belly pain, cramping, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, and usually there's no clear cause. Anytime you're given a diagnosis with syndrome on the end, IBS is irritable bowel syndrome, it's a catch-all. It's that there's a lot of people that have that problem and we're not sure what causes it or what caused it for you, but everyone, we have to, get an ICD-9 code so we can get paid by insurance for the doctor to visit. You have to have a diagnosis.
ICD-10.
Well, now it's right, and they're already working on 11. They have new codes now. They're making more of them. There's even a code for getting sucked into a jet plane engine, a diagnosis code. You know, because if you can really make it specific, you can get paid for your treatment, because that's different than banging into a wall. But I can't believe that there's an insurance code for getting sucked into a jet engine. But evidently that happens a lot. IBS swings from constipation, usually to diarrhea in between. You can't find any reason what's triggering it, what makes it better. You might know a few things you eat or do that make it worse. But irritable bowel syndrome, you knew you had an irritable bowel before you went to the doctor, because you went there because you can't figure out why you're swinging. So what you really need to do is figure out, take a step back and let's try to make it simpler. What's going on inside and what can we do to help the body do what it's trying to do? Our bodies, I gave a lecture, and some of you might have heard me say this to an elementary school class, talking about digestion and food and exercise. And at the end, one little kid raised his hand and he said, sounds like that nature gave us this great machine that works, and we spend our whole life trying to figure out what can we do to break it. And he has it. We do it, and all of you are here, we're doing it a different way. The body, from our symptoms, is giving us a good warning, telling us what isn't working right. So a better solution isn't suppressing the problem or the symptom, it's more, what can I give the body to help it do what it's trying to do? And then you fix the problem and you don't have the problem anymore. As opposed to suppressing the symptom. Inflammation, acute inflammation, very healthy. That's nature's response for protection and healing. Chronic inflammation kills tissue and destroys. So you don't want, the minute you twist your knee, you don't want to load up on ibuprofen and get rid of all the inflammation. You need some inflammation for protection so you don't overuse the knee, and also to help bring the blood flow in and get heat up there, which will kill any bacteria that accumulate. So it's a real balancing act. So how about we help the body do it instead of hampering the body? Also, a slide like this I don't think you need, but if anybody wants any of the specific slides, if you let us know, I have them all electronically and I can email them to you. Also, I forgot to say, for the lectures, we do have sign-up sheets upstairs if you want to get on the list now. Looking at this, and yet I realize it's hard to read from the back, just talking about people with irritable bowel syndrome, 62% of them don't have enough bifidobacterium, and 87% don't have enough lactobacillus. The reason I like that on there, that it was on there, is a lot of the probiotics only have one strain. It's one, let's say one of the lactobacillus or one of the bifido. Most people with IBS have an imbalance in both areas. The bifidobacterium are mainly in the large intestine. The acidophilus, the lactobacillus, are mainly in the small intestines. We have hundreds and hundreds of different organisms, and each one has its own purpose. So just loading up on one or two organisms might help somewhat, but the best thing is give the body all the ones it needs, and if the environment's right, they're going to go forth and multiply. Yes?
What's the best way to get a mixture of them in raw fermented vegetables?
Well, one, you probably would have to, good question, you'd probably have to, I don't want to say grow, ferment your own vegetables, because most of the stuff that's commercially available, just like yogurt, is pushed through and then they add bacteria at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a mix of them. Kefir, sauerkraut, because each thing grows with different bacteria. They have an overlap. The problem we have with that, or that you might have with that, is if you're very out of balance in the bacteria, you couldn't eat enough of it to get enough to bring you up to where you should be. So supplementation, if you're out of balance, is good to supplement to get you back in balance, and then if we eat right and live right, we should be able to keep that balance. Another interesting thing, stress, of course, very, very, very important factor in any type of bowel disorder. Any of you that have been to any of the adrenal lectures, the adrenals, 2 glands on our kidneys, they have 2 major functions: fight or flight and feed and breed. You can't do both efficiently at the same time. When we get scared, we were designed for severe stress for short bursts. You walk out of a cave, the lion's there that wants to eat you. That's a little stressful, but it's over in a minute. He eats you, you kill him, or you escape. Stress is gone. One of those 3 ways. Then you go back to painting and picking berries and whatever else we used to do. We're living under stress all the time. When you're stressed and you're in some degree of fight or flight, the blood goes to the large muscles in the brain and away from the digestive tract and the reproductive tract. That's very helpful. When we're in feed or breed, the blood goes away from the brain and the big muscles and it goes to the digestive tract and the reproductive organs. And so if you're stressed and you wolf down lunch, you're not digesting well. Motility slows down, the food ferments, it's just sitting there. And that can lead to digestive issues. That's why Mom always said, slow down, sit down and eat. Take 5 minutes and eat. So stress is very, very important. We'll go into sleep in a little bit. Diet is a big thing. Patients with IBS, 75% of them go undiagnosed. They're just self-medicating and they're not getting better, and they never go to the doctor or try to get help. 17% have a positive bacterial infection. 60% of people with chronic bowel problems have a yeast overgrowth. And candida is becoming a very big problem, not just for women. And the problem with candida is we need it, but you don't want an overgrowth. Candida puts out metabolic waste that changes the pH in the environment in the gut to what it likes, and the lactobacillus and the bifido can't survive in that. So that leaves more nice fertile territory for candida to grow. The second thing it does is some of their metabolic waste does cross the blood-brain barrier. It makes you crave white flour and white sugar, simple carbs, because that makes the environment more acidic, which candida likes and the good bacteria don't like. So that's Darwin or Mother Nature's survival of the species. So there should be a nice fight going on, just keeping everything in balance. We need some candida, but too much causes problems.
Can you say how the candida gets in your system?
The candida's there.
Oh,
We all have candida, but it should be in the background. And realistically, in today's society, if we took all of you and sent out to a good lab a stool sample, we would find parasites in most of us. But our gut is healthy, and it keeps it's like weeds in the lawn. You have an odd dandelion and a piece of crabgrass. If the lawn is healthy, it keeps it in the background, and a couple dandelions is no problem. So we have it. One of the things nature gave us candida for is it helps with metal detoxing. If you start dumping mercury, which is in our environment, candida blooms to bind it up so it passes out, it doesn't get reabsorbed. Problem is we have so much mercury that you get too much candida and you develop leaky gut, so it gets absorbed anyway. But nature put it there to help us. You know, each bacteria, when you have a strep infection, we all have, if you have your throat cultured, there will be streptococcal organisms there, but tiny amounts in the background. They're there to eat, bacteria basically eat metabolic waste. So if your system is out of balance and you're producing the wrong thing, the streptococcal or the candida go up a little bit, gobble it up, then there's no food for them and they die back off. But what if metabolically you're really off and you keep pumping out that metabolic waste? That bacteria grows and then you get the infection. So it isn't we shouldn't have any. Everything should be in harmony. There was a question.
Well,
I read somewhere that candida kills some bad bacteria also.
Yeah. But any bacteria can be dangerous. And any bacteria can be beneficial if it's in balance. All right. So, top picture. This was from the glaciers up in Canada, in the Rocky Mountains. Think of the digestive tract from the snow caps, the glaciers, all the way down to the ocean. And that's what our system is like. You go from the snow cap to the tributaries, to the streams, to the rivers, to the ocean. We go from the cells to the lymphatic system, to the liver, to the gallbladder, to either the kidneys or the bowel, and then out into Boston Harbor. And that should be flowing nice and easy. Luckily it gets treated now. Anyone been here for a long time? Remember what Boston Harbor was a toilet. It was disgusting. But now you can go out, I fish, and you go out and you can see the light refracting 15, 20 feet down. Before you couldn't see through all the whatever. So you want to have your, always, when you think of the digestive system or detoxing, always think of a river. And let's say we take this nice river and we put 4 dams in it. So the water isn't flowing from the bottom all the way up to near the snow cap, to the streams. And we want to help the river flow. Which dam are you going to open first? The one at the top or the one at the bottom? The bottom. And then when the lower part is running good, you blow up the next dam or fix the next dam. And you slowly, you work from downstream up. That's what you need to do with the digestive system. You need to figure out where is your problem. If you're constipated, you can't do anything else. You can't even work on digestion until you get the bowel flowing, because the food can't get down there to get digested. If your liver's overloaded, that could affect the bowel, but it's going to back up everything through the lymph and the cellular level. So you need to do liver support. So it's really, a lot of people will start doing a detox and feel sick. You should feel maybe a little tired, but better from day one of doing a detox. You should feel the same or move forward. If you feel worse, get a headache, get diarrhea, or constipated, or gassy, or sleep problems, or your energy totally falls off, you have a couple of dams, and you loosened everything upstream, and it's all hitting the backside of a dam. So you should stop what you're doing and rethink it, and start a little further downstream. Yes?
Is there a protocol to do for detoxing, like before, like to prepare yourself for detox?
Yeah. The question was, is there a protocol to do before you detox? And I'll say there is, but for each person it could be different. First thing I ask people, they call Steve and I the bowel brothers, because we're always talking to people about their bowel movements. And believe it or not, I have people sending me pictures, with the internet. I had one mother, which it wound up being helpful. She had a DVD of her child's bowel movements from birth to age 2. And this poor kid wasn't thriving and was in and out of the hospital, so it wound up, after you get over the, she gave me the DVD and I didn't know what it was. I threw it in, I'm having lunch, and all of a sudden the pictures, a nice slideshow. But depending upon what's going on, if you're constipated, you want to get that going. So if your bowels are too loose, you have diarrhea, that means you have leaky gut. You want to calm the inflammation down. So what I like to do is, most of the protocols that are put together, the good protocols for digestive disorders, help the tissue and help the digestive system, and they all have a very low degree, but a degree of the beginning of detoxing. Then once you get that going, then you can go further and further into the detox. So it's really, there isn't one protocol, because each of us, if we talk, which I won't because you won't answer me, but if I asked you, how many bowel movements a day do you have and what does it look like, and I ask you, you'd be crazy to answer in front of people you don't know, but each of us would have a different setup. What do the stools look like? And we're going to We have a slide on that with no pictures, just descriptions, what it means. Okay, so this is our digestive system. It's where life begins and ends. It can either help you be stronger and live long, or it can kill you. Starts in the mouth, goes down to here. One big long tube with a couple of organs strapped onto it. Very, very simple but complex system. We chew, we mix the food with saliva, which has amylase in it. Goes down into the stomach. The stomach dumps acid in, churns it all around. When it's mixed well, and that bolus of food that we spent a lot of time chewing, that's why we have a mouthful of teeth, even though most of us chew it enough so we don't choke when we swallow. You're supposed to macerate it and really chew it up so it mixes easier. The valve at the bottom of the stomach opens up and it goes into the small intestines, and that starts a disassembly line. And we have a peristaltic movement. There's smooth muscles in there, and there's a nice, the rings go and it moves this bolus down, and it's timed. It's sort of like the Model T plant from Henry Ford, that it's just moving along at a steady speed because it's supposed to do that. And at each spot, different enzymes or different digestive juices drop in, and the pH and the environment are right, and the right bacteria are in that section, and it breaks it down. We absorb the nutrients, and then at the very end we poop out all the garbage. And then at night when we're sleeping, we'll get into that, the body detoxes and dumps all this this bad metabolic waste and all the junk we've ingested that shouldn't be there into the intestines, and we poop it out, and everyone's happy, and you start another day. What happens when, well, this is the lining of the intestines. There's all this one layer thick of epithelial cells, that's skin cells, and it's like a baby's bottom, a newborn skin, very, very delicate. And see how tightly they're packed. When the food is broken down to the right molecular size, and it is nutrients, it passes in between those cells. And all the bacteria and all the chemicals and all the waste product can't get through. And then it gets absorbed into the bloodstream. And from the bloodstream it goes right to our liver. On top of this layer, we have a thin layer of mucus. And then we have 6.5 pounds of good bacteria, if your gut is healthy. And just a little tidbit, good table talk. We have 10 billion cells in our body. Give or take a billion or two.
10 billion?
Billion.
Good.
We should have about 100 billion healthy bacteria in our gut. So there's more bacterial cells in a healthy gut than there are cells in our whole body. That's how important they are. We have fluoridated and chlorinated water. We have food with antibiotics in it, which antibiotics are great if you need them, but they kill good bacteria too. And we're eating, the gentleman asked about good food, fermented food. We're not eating that anymore. Or we're not eating the real food. I remember my grandmother used to make her own sauerkraut. There was always a tub of sauerkraut cooking. And people used to make their own yogurt. Now, Activa, they make the yogurt in the factory and then they add the bacteria at the end. The bacteria was supposed to make the yogurt, but we can do it better and faster because we're smarter than nature. So we're not getting what we need. My grandmother had an organic garden. She did everything physical, even though my parents and my uncles bought her a gas-powered rototiller and all that. She was out there with a pitchfork and all that. And she used to get a load of well-rotted cow manure and then mix it in. The neighbors loved her. But we used to go over and she would pull out carrots, bright orange carrots, and she'd wipe them on her apron and give them to us. And of course, what do we know? We're eating them. And my mother would have a bird. You have to scrape the outside, you have to wash them, there was cow manure in there, and all that. That had all the healthy bacteria. Now we're watering with dirty water that has bad bacteria, so we irradiate our food, and so that kills the good and the bad bacteria. So we're not getting, it's like overseeding your lawn, we're not getting those seeds in all the time, so we're slowly falling behind. So when the mucus layer isn't there, or there aren't enough of the good bacteria, these cells get damaged. You have all those digestive juices which can digest protein, which that's what the cells are made on. They get inflamed and they get all wrinkly like sunburn, and the gaps in between open up. That's leaky gut. Then you start absorbing things that weren't supposed to get absorbed, and you start reacting to them. Your immune system senses that piece of chicken group of molecules, and these aren't real numbers because I don't know what the real numbers are, but let's say you're supposed to digest chicken down to a two molecule group and then it gets absorbed. If that opening's bigger, you might have absorbed a 6 molecule group. That shouldn't excuse me, be in your system. Your immune system is reacting properly. It says that's foreign, we need to attack it. Then you start reacting and you have a food sensitivity to chicken. And that's why as we get older and we get more out of balance, we have fewer and fewer foods we tolerate. And it used to be the old people had 4 or 5 foods they'd eat. Whenever you had your grandma over, you couldn't cook her anything because there's only 3 things she would eat. But it's not that she's old and the stomach is getting tired. It's that we've been out of balance, and we got so out of balance that we're leaking and we're reacting to most things. And the answer or the solution to most food sensitivities, not the peanut allergy where you get rushed to the hospital, but the food reactivity, is to fix the gut. And then you start processing and absorbing the way nature intended, and the immune system calms down and you can start tolerating a lot of these foods. So you have to eliminate them to stop the inflammation and the reaction, but then you fix why that's happening, because that isn't normal. Okay? What are some of the toxins? The immune system, when we get sick, the mitochondria, there are fuel cells in every single cell in our body. They put out a lot of free radicals. That's toxic to the body. But the antioxidants take care of that. Problem is, we're not getting enough antioxidants in the food. When you go to a farmer's market and buy the food that was picked yesterday, the fruit and vegetables are loaded with antioxidants. But as each day goes on, you have fewer and fewer and fewer. The enzymes and the antioxidants start dying off. So the stuff you get a lot of times in the supermarket could be a week or 2 or 3 old, or it was picked not fully ripe because of the shipping and everything, and it ripens. Or you get pears and you have to leave them on the counter for 2 weeks before you can even bite into one. That doesn't have the vitamin and the antioxidant load that it should if you went out and picked them and brought them home and could eat them. So that's important. Anyone here with the P450 enzyme pathway?
Yeah.
No. P450 enzyme pathway in pharmacy, they drill that into your head. That's in the liver. Almost every single pharmaceutical we take, the body takes anything foreign and tries to break it down to a safe level and then excretes it. And most of that is done by the P450 enzyme pathway. The other interesting thing is the majority of our own metabolic waste goes through the P450 enzyme pathway. So if you have a bunch of pharmaceuticals or man-made chemicals from the environment or metabolic waste from your body, the chemicals are more dangerous to the body than your metabolic waste. So what the body does is it figures out what's the most dangerous and it works on that. If there's an overload of other things, it stores it in the liver, and most of this is fat soluble, and that leads over time to a fatty liver, which is a big problem now, very common. And the other thing it does, when the liver gets full, it buries it in the connective tissue.
What tissue?
I'm sorry?
What tissue?
The liver and then connective. So the joints, the muscles. And that's one of the big problems with people with fibromyalgia. Because, and if you don't try to figure out everything at once, if you just listen to them, if they get some good night's sleep and they're rested, they feel better pain-wise. And if they don't get sleep, that's when we detox, the body's burying more and they feel worse. And so what do? We have 5 drugs we give people with fibromyalgia. That's overloading the P450 system. It works for a little while, then they go underwater and they feel worse. So very important. Another area we don't think about is toxic thoughts. This can be our friend and it can be our enemy. If you're in a situation where there's a lot of negativity, or you're in a relationship that isn't a positive, loving relationship, that's very toxic on the body. You're under stress. You're generating a lot of metabolic waste, which overloads the system. And all metabolic waste has to come down and out. So if this gets inflamed and this is a mess, everything just backs up. So I guess where I'm going with this is, it's not just take a probiotic or take a good digestive enzyme. It's lifestyle changes and diet and exercise, and it's the whole, a little bit of everything, not a lot of one thing. Some people will tell me, I took probiotics, that didn't help. I took enzymes, that didn't help. And I say, did you take enzymes and probiotic at the same time? No, I wanted to see which one was going to fix it. No one thing is going to fix anything. One thing can suppress something. But if you think about it, we all know protein's very good for us. So why don't we all just eat eggs and don't eat anything else? We'll eventually get sick and die. Or why don't we eat tomatoes or celery or lettuce or red pepper? It's a little bit of everything that works together. There isn't one thing that the body needs to fix everything. So, okay, the liver, very, very important. One of the things the liver does, we talked about everything going down to the bowel, everything gets absorbed, and if the digestive system is working perfectly, you're the poster child for a good intestinal tract. Some things still sneak by. Some bacteria in the food get into the blood, or some chemicals or substances that shouldn't have got through sneak through. Nature set us up so the blood that comes from the intestinal tract goes through the portal vein. First thing it does is it goes into the liver, and the liver filters. And it filters out, hopefully, all the things that shouldn't be there, and then passes all the nutrients on, comes out the liver and goes to the brain and the heart and through the whole body. So our liver not only is taking care of our own metabolic waste, it's not only taking care of all of the drugs we're taking, it's not only taking care of everything we're inhaling and being exposed to and putting on our skin and absorbing, it's also cleaning the food that we eat, which for the most part is pretty disgusting, the food we have. It's not clean food. Yes?
I'm just thinking about something that you said a few minutes ago about autoimmune.
Yeah.
There are so many autoimmune diseases now, and I was just wondering, and there's never a reason why they happen, but I'm just wondering if it could originate in difficulties of digestion because of
And detoxing, yeah.
Our improper eating habits. Is that true?
It can be in a lot of cases. Did you hear the question?
No.
Okay, I'll repeat the question. Eventually we'll have mics that we hand out and get real fancy. That's probably when we blow the wall out, we can fit 100 people. Question was, there's an explosion in autoimmune diseases now. And scleroderma. 10 years ago, you probably most people never heard of it. Now everyone almost knows someone with scleroderma. Thyroid problems, all these autoimmune problems. Why? And a lot of that, she said, does that have to do with digestion and detoxing? Yes. Our body was meant to be healthy. When you have a lot of chemicals or heavy metals, or not a lot, more than what the body can deal with, that corrupts. Do you remember from biology when cells divide, there's DNA and it goes to RNA, and then it makes some more DNA and the cell eventually divides and the genetic material doubles and goes into two different cells. The toxins and chemicals can corrupt some of that transcription. And what happens is it either can trigger cancer, or what happens is the new cell is slightly different than the original cell. So it might, if it's thyroid, it might still make thyroid hormone, but the immune system says something's wrong with that. That's not one of ours. And so it starts attacking it, and that's autoimmune, when you start attacking your own cells. And so a lot of times that can be reversed by gently cleaning up the body. Now a lot of things can be reversed. The problem is we usually let it go too long. Once there's damage and cell death, you can't zap a cell and get it pumping again. So the trick is, when we get these symptoms, whatever the symptom is, that's the body telling us something. It's not, well, I'm 60 and a lot of guys are getting up 8 times a night, that's normal. That isn't normal, it's common. You shouldn't be getting up 6 times a night. Women shouldn't be changing their clothes 6 times a day from hot flashes. It might be very common that women have hot flashes, severe hot flashes for years, but that's not how our body was designed. Minor flashes, yes, but there's a reason for it. And then we throw chemicals in to suppress the flashes or to stop you from getting up at night and urinating, and that overloads the system even further. It works for a little while and it stops working. We say our body got used to the drug. It usually isn't we got used to it, it was the problem got more severe and that drug isn't strong enough to suppress the problem anymore. That it help answer? Okay. Liver, when we're in good, yes.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So you talk a lot about like diet and stuff. So I was wondering if like, say someone went like all organic and like only ate like organic foods, will that really help with like
Yes.
the digestion?
If diet's important, keep mentioning diet's important. Eating, I won't even say all organic because you can't always find everything. Mostly organic and fresh. Is that better and helpful? Yes, that's what we were designed to eat. Would you take your car, fill the tank up halfway with gasoline, and come home and fill the rest of the tank up with water because it's cheaper? No, because you're going to ruin the engine. You have to buy another $25,000 car. Our body has minimum nutrient needs, and that comes from food. And if we're not giving it the fuel it needs, the engine's going to eventually break down. So eating organic, you have less chemicals and less work for your poor liver. And so then if you're exposed, a truck goes by and you inhale all those diesel fumes, your body has more bandwidth to deal with the diesel fumes because it's not dealing with all the chemicals that were on the apple you ate. So get online and look up The Dirty Dozen. The people who are my age or older will remember the movie The Dirty Dozen. That's fun, so you can look that up too. But The Dirty Dozen is a list of 12 foods, fruits and vegetables, that you should never eat unless they're organic. They are the dirtiest foods and you'll be shocked at what they are. Now, do I eat 100% organic? No. Do I try to eat as much as possible? Yes. At home, I won't eat strawberries. That's one of the dirty ones, unless they're organic. But we went away, and with breakfast they served a beautiful fresh fruit cup, and I can almost guarantee the strawberries weren't organic, so I had a couple of them. But since I'm not eating them all the time, my body can deal with some of it. So it's the amount. You don't have to go crazy. It's just everything in moderation. The liver does phase 1, phase 2 detoxing. Phase 1 takes fat-soluble substances that are dangerous to the body and makes them water-soluble. The problem with phase 1 is those new substances are even more dangerous to the body than the original substance almost all the time. But we go from phase 1 right into phase 2. Phase 2 uses glutathione, and I'm going to show you a whole bunch of nutrients, and that makes those substances safe. Then they're at water-soluble or fat-soluble still, but they can get out of the body. The problem is phase 1 will run at whatever speed it needs to. Phase 2 is the limiting factor because it requires vitamins and nutrients. So if you're nutrient deficient, you're making all these dangerous byproducts and you can't deactivate them. So you're going further backwards. The other problem with phase 1, phase 2 is that primarily goes on when we're in good REM sleep at night. And I'll say in the world, but I can only talk for this country, we have a major sleep problem in this country where most people don't get 6-7 hours of good REM sleep without taking an antihistamine or Ambien or lorazepam or Klonopin. And when you take those, the lights might be out, but you're not in REM sleep. When you're in REM sleep, that's when the body detoxes, it repairs any damage, it restores, and it recharges your adrenals. So if you're just knocking yourself out, you're at a deficit the next day. You're not starting with a full tank of gas. So you're already stressed before you even wake up. Yes?
Without going for a sleep exam, is there a way for you to tell on your own that you've gotten a good REM night's sleep?
Yeah, if you're not taking anything, and most days you might wake up, but you can go to the bathroom or roll over and get back to sleep, and you wake up feeling energized, not exhausted. Now, some people aren't morning people, so for those people, if an hour or two later they get a full head of steam and they're good for the day, they're getting REM sleep. If you get up, and even if you're energized, and by 11 o'clock you're looking for some corner to take a nap, you didn't get a good night's sleep. Okay, yes?
Just a quick question. Does the lymphatic system drain into the digestive system?
Does the lymphatic drain into the digestive? The lymph system comes down and up and goes into the liver. And the liver, it goes to, that's another thing, thank you. Even though you didn't know, you reminded me, and then I'll get to you. This little yellow thing is the gallbladder. Gallbladder is a sac. All it does is the liver, most of the metabolic waste gets broken down and turned into bile. It goes into the, nature hates wasting anything, it goes into the gallbladder. All the gallbladder does is concentrate it. So we use that for digesting fats and different things. So when the gallbladder gives a little squirt, it's real concentrated. You don't need gallons of it. It's very, very concentrated. If anyone is developing sludge in their gallbladder or gallstones, until the gallbladder dies, it isn't a gallbladder problem, it's a liver problem. You're not making good bile. And a lot of people that are starting to develop stones, when they get their liver working better and they're making good bile, the stones start dissolving. So what happens to the person who has their gallbladder removed? The problem's still there. It was a liver problem to begin with. Those people usually 4, 6, 8 months later have the exact same symptoms again, because it really wasn't the gallbladder. You had a question?
In your next slide, where you've got the toxins on the left,
Yeah?
is it possible that there are some people in this world who just have tougher constitutions than others?
Yes.
They can sort of do everything on the left-hand side and still
And some people,
appear
question
to be
is,
healthy?
can you appear to be healthy and deal with that, or even if you're
Yes.
not, it doesn't bother you? And I'll say yes, but eventually it catches up to all of us. Some people can, at the risk of sounding sexist, women are better than men with babies. They can get up every 2 hours, the women, and they might be a little crabby, and I say that lovingly and understanding, but they survive the first year, whereas us poor guys, we have to sleep because we have to get up and go to work because the women aren't working at home. They have a tougher job than we do. But how do you do it? Because you have to, and you can muscle through it. The problem is eventually it catches up to us. So it's more at the end run. If you're the 80-year-old that's still playing doubles tennis in the middle of the summer without any problem, you probably have a good constitution but you're healthy. Or are you the 50 or 60-year-old that's ready to retire and you're a couch potato because you can't exercise? Or you have bad arthritis, or you have a heart problem, or you have high cholesterol, or you have degenerative bones, you have a lot of knee problems or hip problems, or you're getting dementia. It eventually will catch up to us. Just like your car, we don't have to change our oil every 3,000 miles. You could change it every 30,000 miles, and you might get 40,000, 50,000 miles out of your car, but the engine will eventually start falling apart, but it's down the road. So prevention is the best medicine. Okay, so talking about the liver, phase 2, we need glutathione, glycine, glutamine, taurine, cysteine, the cruciferous vegetables. Very good at helping with phase 1, phase 2 detoxing. Sulfur-containing phytonutrients of vegetables. These are the antioxidants we need for the liver to do phase 1, phase 2. The big complex of stress vitamins. When we're stressed, we burn right through them. If we burn right through them, you don't have them available for the liver. If you're not eating fresh fruits and vegetables, you're not getting B vitamins. So you're eating junk food, the liver has to work harder, and it doesn't have the fuel it needs to do its job. Can you deal with that? Absolutely. The liver will store it. And how many of you have heard someone say, yeah, my doctor told me my liver's getting a little fatty, but that's normal for someone my age? That's what we're hearing. Nobody should have a fatty liver, but it's becoming extremely common because this system is getting backed up. And so we have a problem in the medical profession that things that are very common, we now say are normal. And those are two totally different things. You know, you shouldn't have a fatty liver. Guys shouldn't be getting up 6 times a night. Women shouldn't be going 10 years of having severe menopausal hot flashes. But it's very common. We shouldn't have the infertility problem we have. The body doesn't change that fast. It takes thousands of years for little tiny changes, and in this one generation, we all of a sudden have an explosion of infertility. And it's probably due to a whole lot of different things. But it's not that nature changed. You know, we're moving along from crawling on all fours to standing upright. That didn't happen in one generation. So it takes a long time. So when something happens fast, there's usually a reason. So to be healthy, toxins in and toxins out. You can't eliminate all toxins. But if you can bring in not too many and your system is running well, it'll take care of them. And you're fine. You can eat the non-organic strawberries once in a while. You can have a glass of wine, a scotch, a beer. But if you have glasses of wine, bottles of scotch, and cases of beer all the time, you overload your liver and it can't deal. Alcohol is one of the most dangerous things. So then all the drugs and all the other toxins get buried. Yes?
Are there things like charcoal or bentonite or other things that you can consume that will sort of bypass these systems and absorb toxins and flush right through?
Those only absorb the toxins in the bowel.
Okay.
But they get into the blood, most of them get into the bloodstream, then the liver, and then to the bowel. So you're really catching them at the end point. So as part of a detox, yes, it's good, but as a part of, will that protect me? No, because they've already gone through and gummed up the works a little bit. Okay, more toxins in or fewer toxins out, that's when the toxic burden comes, and that's when you start having problems. So, we talked about sleep. You need REM sleep. Those of us that are stressed or have an adrenal issue or a sleep issue, it's not just you're tired and the sleep, or not getting enough sleep so you're aggravated because you're up counting sheep, or watching your significant other sleep, which I guess really aggravates the person who's not sleeping. You need to get good sleep and not drug-induced sleep. That makes you happier because you're not up pacing, but it does nothing for the body, and there's usually reasons why you're not sleeping. Now, another interesting thing, between, give or take a little bit, 2 and 4 in the morning is when our liver, if you're in REM sleep, does most of its work. And if the liver's overloaded, it sends a message to the adrenals, I need more help, more energy, and the adrenals start coming up, and if they cross over into daytime mode, you wake up. And just all of a sudden you're awake. There wasn't a noise, your heart isn't racing, you don't know why you woke up, but you're in daytime mode. So that's liver time. So people who are generally waking up between 2 and 4, that's a flag, give the liver some support. So all the Chinese have been saying that for over 2,000 years. We finally did some studies and said, gee, that's when the liver does its work. That must be a liver overload. But they've been saying it without any science, or with a lot of science, for 2,000 years. But they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, when you're constipated, which constipation is babies. You feed a baby, it poops. Usually while you're feeding it. Give them 10 bottles, 10 diapers. We eat, most of us, we should be eating 3 meals a day. You're putting in all this delicious food, you're grinding it up, you're swallowing it, it's getting processed. And when I don't do it anymore, but I used to ask, how many people are regular? You know, and almost everyone raises their hand. Then I say, how many people go to the bathroom 3 times a week? A few hands go down. Then you start asking, very few people have 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. That's normal. When people come in saying, I have diarrhea, I go to the bathroom 3 times a day, that's not normal. They get a gold star. They are normal. They're very weird because most people don't do that. Also, having a bowel movement. We have magazine racks. It's the most uncomfortable seat in the house. It should be like urinating. You sit down, you go, and you're out the door. You should only be in there, and I always say this, for any length of time if that's the only room with a lock on it that you can get some alone time. But your feet fall asleep, your legs fall asleep if you sit there. You shouldn't read the Sunday paper. You shouldn't bring a novel in there. It should be a minute. You sit down, you go, you flush, and you're out. You shouldn't have to open the window and air out that end of the house when you go. Baby, anyone that takes care of a baby or had a baby, if the mother breastfed and she was healthy, the diaper, when you peel it off, might be the most disgusting thing you ever saw, but it doesn't have any odor to it. That's because the food is being digested. We haven't screwed up their digestive system yet. If you have odor or gas, the food's fermenting. It's not digesting. So the transit time is slow. The food is supposed to be moving down this Model T assembly plant, and just, this isn't a real number, 20 minutes later, the digestive enzymes get dumped in because that bolus of food is supposed to be there. If you are constipated, the food's here, the enzymes go in, and hours later when the food gets there, the enzymes are further down because everything's moving, so the food doesn't digest. It's sitting at 98.6 degrees fermenting. Now, I have a slide. Unpleasant thought. What would happen in the summer if you took dinner, threw it in a food processor, put it in a Ziploc bag, shut the air conditioner off in the house, house gets up to 100 degrees, and you let it sit for 12 hours. That bag's going to be pretty disgusting. It's going to be rotting and gassy and smelly. That's what happens here. If you eat and get bloated, the food's fermenting, not digesting. If you pass gas and you clear a room or peel the wallpaper off the wall, your food is fermenting, not digesting. Now, some people, beans are hard for a lot of people to digest. And what was the movie where they sat around the campfire eating beans? Blazing Saddles. Beans can cause smelly gas, but in general, if you have smelly gas, you have a digestive issue, and you want to do something. Now, we swing from IBS, constipation, to diarrhea. How does that happen? Well, if you're constipated and this stuff is sitting there long enough, the body is going to say, this is getting dangerous. It's not good for us. So it empties everything out. You have that explosive diarrhea. Then what happens is the body says, but I missed all the nutrients, slow it down. So you go to the other extreme, you start getting constipated, but then it sits there rotting, and people with IBS swing back and forth and back and forth, and they can never get the right mix in. Also, the more this happens, the more irritated the bowel gets, and you get leakier gut, and the system isn't working well. Make sense?
Good.
1 sec, yes.
Do beans, like, I eat beans, like, every day because I don't eat meat, like, or animal products. Can that really cause a lot of, like, backup in your body?
It depends upon if you have a problem digesting beans. Some
It
people
does? Okay.
do and some don't. Some people can eat bowls of beans every day with no problem. But there are enzymes you can take if you do have that problem.
Is
Yes?
there something that initially causes the slow transit time?
It could be, what if you were stressed? Then the
That
blood's
would do it,
going to
huh?
the muscles and it slows down, and then everything
Okay.
starts getting backed up.
Interesting.
Now, the longer the food sits in the intestinal tract, in the large intestine is where we absorb our water to rehydrate the body. So if you don't have enough water coming in, the body slows down that bolus of food longer so it can pull more water out. And if it pulls more water out, the stool gets more compact and drier and harder, which backs everything up. The other problem can be if you don't have the right amount of bacteria in there, the body can slow things down because it knows it should be getting nutrients out of the food, and if it isn't, it slows the transit time down. And so sometimes if you're traveling, people usually get constipated a little. That's because everything changes, but that's normal and the body will catch up. But if it's a chronic problem, that's the beginning, and everything after it starts falling apart. So you want to have fiber. There's all different types of fiber. There's powder, there's capsules, there's soluble and insoluble fiber. Very important to get, for you, the right mix. The insoluble fiber, the body doesn't break down and use, but that's what the bacteria live on. That's the prebiotic you hear about. So you need insoluble fiber to feed the good bacteria. You need the soluble fiber to make the stools light and fluffy and easy to pass. Now, you have to be careful with fiber and use it properly. We use fiber both ways for constipation and diarrhea. For constipation, you take it with a lot of water and it swells up and helps make the stool light and fluffy. If you have bad diarrhea, you can take fiber with a small amount of water, and the body will use the water in the bowel to make the fiber swell. So it absorbs it and thickens the stool. So it can be used both ways. So some people take a shot of fiber, a bunch of fiber capsules, and they're out the door and they don't drink water. And yeah, it makes me very, very constipated. They didn't follow the directions. Also, if you don't eat much fiber and you're adding fibrous foods or you're adding a fiber supplement, do it slowly. Someone that doesn't eat salad, if they sit down and eat a big chef salad, they won't be able to button their pants the next day, and they'll be gassy and bloated for days. It's just like a baby. Whenever you introduce a new food, Add it slowly, not a huge amount. You have to let the body get retrained how to digest it. So fiber's good, but don't go to 3 doses of a fiber powder or Metamucil a day. They'll say it made me feel worse. Slow. You've had this problem for a while. If it takes a couple weeks to get up to the full dose, what's the big deal? So you need to really think about what you're doing. Okay, some tips for constipation. Believe it or not, everyone wants numbers now. How much protein should I eat? How much fiber should I have? Everybody's different. But some ballpark, 35 grams for men, 25 grams of good fiber for women. At age 50, you may need to increase your fiber. One of the reasons for that is from 50 on, you're probably more out of balance than you were 40, 30, 20. So you need more fiber to help get things moving. It's not that you need more fiber. It's just the machine isn't working as well. Exercise. When we move around, the muscles are squeezing the intestines. We're not meant to be sitting all day or standing all day. We're meant to be moving. That's important. Also, our body tells us when it's ready to go to the bathroom, but as adults, not babies, we can control that. So if you're in a meeting or you're driving your car and you get the urge for a bowel movement, you can squeeze and stop that peristaltic movement. But if you stop that movement all the time, the body stops the peristaltic movement. It's trying to help you. And so you really should, if possible, when you feel you need to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. And it should only take a minute. Who can't spare a minute? You know, once in a while you can stop it. You want to avoid frequent use of laxatives. Laxatives are irritants. They irritate the bowel, and the body says, this isn't good for me, let's get rid of it. And if you keep using Senna or X-Lax or any of the other irritant laxatives, the body will only go to the bathroom when it gets irritated. You train it that it needs this irritant. So if you're on one of those laxatives, you can get the bowel working, and then you have to slowly taper off. If you just stop, you're going to turn into a mix of cement, and you're not going to go. Acid blockers, the proton pump inhibitors. Nature gave us acid for a reason. When the system isn't working, we have reflux, and that acidy mix comes up. We take proton pump inhibitors or acid blockers. They're good if you have an ulcer, a bleeding ulcer, because you stop the acid or most of it, it lets the tissue heal, and then you back off of them. If you look at most of those drugs, it says right on the FDA patient package insert and the information to doctors, don't use them over 6 weeks, ever. Most people get 12 refills, they're on it for years. Now, think about it. I started with, you eat food, when you start smelling food, you start pumping out acid. Food goes down there, body mixes it up with the acid, the valve opens and the stomach empties. What if you suppress most of the acid? That food's going to sit there for hours because it has to get digested. There's less acid, so it takes longer to break it down. So you have breakfast at 7 o'clock. By 8:30, the stomach should be empty, and you bend down to tie your shoes. Your stomach's still full of a somewhat acidy mix, and when you bend over, you push, where is it going to go? The easiest way is up. You have dinner at 6, 7 o'clock, and it's sitting there, it's still in there at 10 o'clock at night, and you lie down, and gravity pushes on your stomach. Where does that go? Up. So what do? We give you more acid blockers. How many people know someone that's on Prilosec once or twice a day, and they still have reflux, and the doctor says, let's put some Zantac in there? Yeah, a few people raise their hands. They're finding now in the, I'll say the more mature population, which is now over 40, so most of us are very mature, I guess. They're finding over half the people with reflux that have been on proton pump inhibitors, the reflux is due to lack of acid, not to too much acid. Might have started with too much acid. And that's where, if any of you took a shot of the apple cider vinegar or the bitters, that helps like an aid digestion. So what we've done is, we've worked with some GI doctors and their patients, if they don't have an eroded esophagus and they don't have a bleeding ulcer but they're having a lot of reflux, we started giving them apple cider vinegar with each meal. And let's say a tablespoon or 2 and a couple ounces of water. and you drink it down either before or during the meal. That puts acid in the stomach, and they found, most of these people found, they had less reflux and the stomach emptied faster. They didn't feel full for hours. You shouldn't feel full for hours from the food. If you have a bleeding ulcer, you don't want to do that because it's not for everyone. But we need acid. Miralax started out on prescription, then it went over the counter. Now we say it's safe for even babies. And you can be on it, kids constipated, they can be on it till they'll outgrow it in their teens. And it's perfectly safe. If you look at the molecular formula of Miralax, it's a couple of steps away from antifreeze. But it doesn't, for the most part, it doesn't get absorbed into the bloodstream. It goes in and out, and it softens the stool, so it's perfectly safe. How about we fix the problem instead of forcing the bowel to evacuate every day? So temporarily, yeah, maybe. Proton pump inhibitors once in a while, yeah. But all the time, no. It's not a good idea. Now, there's some reasons for people to do that. If you keep getting bleeding ulcers, you don't want that to perforate. If someone has a senior citizen has a hiatal hernia and they're a little overweight and they have indigestion all the time, they're not going to go in and have that repaired. So for them, maybe they'll be on that the rest of their life, and you work around it. You take digestive enzymes and you work on it. But for everyone else, that's not the answer. Okay, you want to dig deeper.
Question.
Yes.
You mentioned a while back about particular like bacteria, some bacteria liking acid.
Yeah.
And so in the cases of where you might want to do something about bacteria that likes acid or yeast that likes acid.
Yeah.
Like when you're using trying apple cider vinegar, might you be feeding that,
Okay,
that
but the other side is if you're lacking in the acid, the digestion is all screwed up, which feeds the bad bacteria.
Yeah.
So by getting digestion working better, you change the environment to what the good bacteria that are supposed to be in large numbers like, and they start growing. And it's really a battle for this lining of the intestines. Who's going to have most, it's like a football game, who has most of the yardage? The healthy bacteria or the opportunistic? So yes, if you added acid, would that make Candida bloom? They like a more acidic environment than the regular bacteria, but if it's changed to a point where you don't have enough acids to digest the food, that's feeding the Candida. So
what
nature's
about
smart.
H. pylori? H. pylori.
It's same thing. The only reason they use the acid blockers for H. pylori is for the ulcer, the raw skin. The acid blockers don't kill H. pylori. So again, there's a balancing act. Yes.
What happens if you eat a meal and then eat more food too soon and it mixes in the stomach? What does the body do with all
I'm sorry, and eat.
more food too soon? So
Okay.
it mixes.
Okay,
Stomach.
that'll delay gastric emptying, but also if you eat too much food, the body has to break it down, but it can't break it down efficiently, which then you get more things absorbed and you overload the liver. Also, those poor breakdown products feed the bad bacteria. So the people, and there aren't too many of them, but some people, when they're full, they push their plate away, even if it's delicious. They need some psychological help, I think. If food's real good, you eat it, clean your plate. But a lot of people stop. That's what we're supposed to do. I guess cats are that way, but dogs aren't. Cats, you can leave food out. I don't have cats. For a couple of days, and they'll eat what they feel they need to eat, whereas a dog could eat themselves till they explode if you put out 3 days worth of food. I guess that's men and women too. We'll just eat because it's good, and women are better at stopping. Okay. You have to ask the right questions. Why do I have a problem? What's behind my digestive issue? Diet, stress, sleep. You want to look at the stools, and we'll go into that. The gas. I ask about the odor. What's going on with the skin? We detox. Nature gave us our skin. People with acne, eczema, psoriasis. That's a gut problem. You're absorbing things. You have leaky gut. It's a gut problem. It's an inflammatory problem. You're absorbing things that can't get out of the body, and it comes out when you perspire, and it's very irritating to the skin. It feeds the bacteria on the face or on the skin, and that's what causes the pustules. So what do? We give antibiotics. Kills these bacteria, makes the gut leak even more. So when they stop the antibiotics 3 years later, their acne comes back most of the time worse than it was when they started. So you don't want to just suppress the symptom. I have an example coming up as far as sometimes you're eating well, you're exercising, you're getting a good night's sleep, and your gut's a mess, and you can't figure out what it is. So this is a 23-year-old male I worked with. Kid exercises. He's out of school. He's in a startup company. He's making over $95,000 first year out of school, and the company already got $30 billion in angel money. $30 million in angel money. So he has a job. It's not that it's a startup and he might be out of work. He's in a loving relationship. He gets along well with his parents. He's the poster child of a happy kid that everything's going right. He is so bloated and constipated, and there's nothing wrong. So he kept going back to his internist, and they put him on Miralax, and that didn't help. That gave him diarrhea. He would go to the bathroom, and he would have one of the pictures I get, because I wanted to see. It would be a stool about that big. It was like a flattened cannonball, about that big around. There were a bunch of round balls all compressed. He was going every 2 to 3 days. He had an anal fissure because to pass something that big, the anus has to open up. Very gassy to a point where he started working from home because the gas was so smelly, and the doctor told him to take Milacon drops or charcoal capsules. So they sent him to a GI doctor. GI doctor said, let's do a breath test. So they did one of these 3-hour breath tests, and he came up that he doesn't process dairy well. So the answer was, you're dairy intolerant, eliminate all dairy, you're fine, have a good life. No follow-up, no anything. So he stopped all dairy for a month and a half. It was a little bit better, but he was still miserable. So I suggested he go to his doctor and have a stool sample done, because there could be something in there. And the doctor said, there's no reason to do it, your problem is dairy, because they already have that diagnosis. So this company, Diagnostic, you can order your own lab. So he did that. It was about $280. I was concerned that he might have a parasite or something on that idea, because he eats a lot of sushi, but he only eats supposedly good sushi. So when we did his lab, he didn't have any overgrowths of parasites, which was excellent. But he did have some overgrowths of strep, pneumonia, and non-toxic E. coli. Those are all normal bacteria that are supposed to be in very tiny amounts in the gut. So the mainstream labs will look at that, and they don't check for those because they're supposed to be there. This lab checks for about 30 different things, and how many of each. So he had an overgrowth of those. And so that was throwing the environment off, and it wasn't allowing enough of the good bacteria to stay there. So then you go further. He tested positive for milk, soy, and gluten. Not that he's allergic to it. He's not going celiac, but he's reacting to it. And what we went back to, if you have leaky gut, you react to a lot of foods. So what do we do for him? One, we got him to eliminate the dairy, the all gluten, and soy. Which, he said, if I have to stand on my head for a month, I will. Just tell me how to get better. We gave him a well-formulated probiotic. He was on Enterobiotic. I like this because it has the lactobacillus, the bifido, the Saccharomyces, and the soil-based organisms, but there are other ones. Put him on Saccharomyces, gave him a good digestive enzyme to help because he wasn't breaking down food well, and gave him GlutatShield, which has glutamine in it. It has some other things. This product, anyone with inflammatory bowel issues, this is excellent. It helps calm the inflammation, not by suppressing it, but the glutamine the body uses to soothe that thin layer of epithelial cells. And the blend that's in here, and there's a couple other companies that make similar products, help with the regeneration of that epithelial lining and help protect it so it doesn't keep getting all wrinkled like sunburn. So we started doing those things and eating well, and within 3 weeks, all of a sudden, I got a call. I'm going to the bathroom 4 and 5 times a day. What's wrong? And I said, nothing's wrong. What do the stools look like? He said, I'm getting logs about that long coming out. So I said, you probably have 6 pounds of backed up stool. This is great. The body is not dumping it, it's moving it along. 6 to 8 weeks later, he did the GlutaShield for 2 months, probiotics and the Saccharomyces separately. He did that for 2 months. Now he's on a digestive enzyme whenever he goes out to eat, where he's eating things that he normally wouldn't. He takes his probiotic every day. He's discontinued this. He goes to the bathroom 1 to 3 times a day. He had to buy new pants because his pants were too big, and that's because he wasn't bloated. And his GI doctor, he finally went back to the GI doctor, and we wanted to just let him know what he did. And the doctor said, none of that helped. You just had a spontaneous heal. It happened. It was just time. You're a young guy, you're healthy, the body would figure it out. So sometimes everyone needs to spend $200, $300 on a lab. No, but it's there if you need it.
A question,
Yes.
did that, the diagnostic test, did that show methane or hydrogen?
No, this
It
is
didn't test for it?
no. This is strictly they take the 2 stool samples, urine and saliva, and what they're looking for is antigens. They're looking for the actual bugs, but they're also looking for antigens in the body. If you have the antigen, that means the bug's there. Even if sometimes these guys hang on and they don't come out in the stool, whereas the mainstream lab, if they don't see it under the microscope, it isn't there. And so you don't have it.
Did the
Now-
patient have GERD?
Well, because he was backed up, he was always burping and, not classical GERD, but he was a mess from his head down.
Yeah.
Okay, parasites I addressed a little bit. Those lovely little things, we all have them. If your gut's healthy, it'll keep the dandelions in the background. And then if the gut's a mess, it takes off. Where's the best place to catch a parasite?
Water.
Used to be a third world country.
Water.
Escalator handle or in an airplane. Think about it. How many people cycle through an airplane in a week? A seat. So what do? We all know we have to wash our hands. So even if we get on the plane, you get on JetBlue, takes off, you're in the air, you go in the bathroom, you wash your hands. And then you open the door and you kick it shut and you go to sit down, but you're in the middle seat of the window seat. So what do? Person on the end isn't helpful. You have to climb over, you grab the armrest and sit down, then you buckle your seat, then you open up your chips and start eating. How many people have done that? Guys, I don't know about women because I don't hang out in women's bathrooms, but I know in the men's room, I would say, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, but over half the guys go in and go to the bathroom and walk out.
That's right.
I think I was going to say 70%, but I don't want to make us all pigs. But it's unbelievable. Now, some of the bathrooms are putting the trash can right by the door, and I never understood that because the sinks are way over there. Then it dawned on me, so you wash your hands, you keep your paper towel, you open the door, hold it with your foot. Women know that, but we're there. And you never shared it with us. So think about that. They're not third world country problems anymore because there are third world countries, but it used to be you had to fly to a third world country. Everyone's flying everywhere, and we're not clean.
How do they test for parasites? How do you know?
You send out some stool. It's a lot of fun. You put some saran wrap on your toilet seat, and then you go to the bathroom. Then they give you a little shovel, and you put it in a little vial, and it's over 3 days, so you put it in your refrigerator, and you have to put a sign on there. No, it's not pate. Okay, so those are the guys you don't want. There's studies, mainstream studies on C. diff. Big problem, people coming out of the hospital.
Yeah.
C. diff gives you explosive diarrhea, it can kill you. So what do? We can't kill C. diff, so we give a drug called vancomycin, which kills everything in the gut. It sterilizes the gut. Then we send the people home and we tell them you're going to have diarrhea for 6 to 8 weeks because there's no bacteria there. And don't worry about it, you'll get better. Problem is you can never kill 100% of anything. So there's no good bacteria, so what grows? C. diff. So the caretakers or the family members get it because it's very contagious, or the person gets infected again. So the holistic side has been saying, how about we discharge the people on a good multi-strain probiotic and Saccharomyces. There's literature in the INH, in the FDA, of studies done with Saccharomyces preventing recurrent C. diff and helping people get over it. But how can a natural bacteria that isn't on prescription cure anything when we don't have drugs that cure it? So they never did anything about it, but more and more people were dying from it, so they figured out, what the heck, we'll give it a try. Lo and behold, it's working. Not rocket science. We're giving the body what should be there that keeps everything in balance and keeps C. diff away, instead of trying to kill C. diff. So there's phenomenal studies out there. Everyone should be taking a probiotic. Mother Nature, pregnant woman, when she gives birth, the good bacteria get into the breast milk to give to the baby. Nature wanted that. Also, when the baby passes through the vaginal canal, the baby's digestive system is sterile. And when it swallows the vaginal mucus, it gets the grass seed, it gets the seeding. So all these C-section babies don't have pointy heads, and they look beautiful, but they never had the seeding. And now the studies are showing they have more allergies, food intolerances, colds and coughs, sore throats, ear infections. 60% of your immune system comes from the healthy bacteria. So every pregnant woman, a woman who's going to be pregnant, should be taking a well-formulated probiotic. All of us should be taking a probiotic. Mega doses, hundreds of billions of organisms, no. You shouldn't be taking huge doses of vitamins unless you need it for a medical condition. It's almost like seasoning. Too much seasoning can ruin the soup, but the right amount makes it delicious. You need enough for the body, and we're each different. Yes?
Should probiotics be taken in the evening or in the morning
Okay.
on an empty stomach? Or
Yes.
What's the
Should
question?
probiotics be taken in the evening, the morning, during a meal, the afternoon? One thought is take it in the evening because GI motility is slower at night, so it gives this big bolus more time for them to grab on and latch on and start growing. Another study showed that the stomach contents is less acidic during a meal because the food buffers the acid, even though you're pumping out a lot more acid. So my thought is whatever is more convenient, so you'll take it every day, is the right time, because if you take it at the proper time, let's say nighttime's best, but you miss 4 nights a week, you're better off getting a little less absorbed every day, but getting it in. So to me, and what I've seen, doesn't matter. Take it. And take it every day. Yes?
Is there a test you can take to let you know like what the perfect balance is of that?
Well, not what the perfect balance is, but what your balance is. And there is, and it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And realistically, if we were eating food the way nature intended and our lives were the way we were supposed to live it, we'd all have enough of the bacteria. We did it to ourselves. So you don't need huge amounts. If you're on certain medicines or antibiotics, I would take a higher dose because you're killing more. But think of it as your lawn. If you're taking care of the soil and the pH and watering, you don't have to put pounds of grass seed. You just have to very lightly overseed. You just want to overseed because they're going to multiply. So you don't need huge amounts. You need a lot of different ones, but not in huge amounts as a supplement. That should be supplementing what you're doing. Yes?
Well, you gotta give it, you gotta give it the food to live on.
But if you eat, right, you have to give the bacteria the food, the prebiotic.
Yeah.
Do most people need to take a prebiotic? If you're eating a good diet and you have fruits and vegetables and beans and nuts, you're getting enough of the insoluble fiber. You don't need to add more. Get it from food. It should be fun, not popping pills all the time.
So how would you help somebody who, it's not irritable bowel, but a lot of baby boomers and the elderly are on pain meds.
Okay.
And pain meds create constipation. Which create a lot of gut issues.
Absolutely.
And so they're being put on stool softeners.
Right.
So what would be the most helpful thing?
Okay, couple of things. One of the things I did, you all have one of these sheets. All right, and you're probably looking at all this and saying, I have to take 32 products to have a healthy gut. No, this is, and there's even more. This is giving you some of the options, some of the different products.
You didn't get that one.
Yep,
I didn't get any back.
I do. If you could pass these around, back and forth, up and down.
Thank you. Okay.
The first thing, and now we'll do a little product. If you want, when you're upstairs, you can look at a product, Nutriplenish GI. Natural Creations is a line that was formulated by naturopaths and homeopaths. And they had certain formulas put together for certain reasons to make it simpler. So a lot of the things I talked about are in here. The backbone is a good multiple vitamin, and it has a lot of the things the body needs for the liver, for phase 1, phase 2, to help the bowel, and so it's all together. So it makes it easier. So you,
There was too much conversation, I didn't hear what you're talking about.
Nutriplenish GI, the first thing on the list, right at the very top. That's a good multiple vitamin that's very supportive of the whole digestive system. So that's a good thing for everyone to take. Then on the liver support, and some people, if you're constipated, people who are on drugs, part of the problem with the drugs is it slows down motility. Another problem is it overloads the liver. And the liver you need for good bowel function. So I put a bunch of products here, and there isn't one right product. Some people love homeopathy, some people don't understand it and don't want to use it. Liver gallbladder is a wonderful product. It has a bunch, that was perfect timing, thank you who asked that question. It has a group of homeopathic remedies that are very good for promoting good liver gallbladder function and digestion, but also if you look at this, it's very good at treating a lot of the problems we have. And so that's good. If you want an herbal product, there's Dandicomp. That has dandelion, milk thistle, barley, beetroot, blue flag. Very, very tonic and supportive of phase 1, phase 2 detoxing. I recommend personally that if your digestion is good and everything is great, I like people to do a good month or two of a gentle, low-dose liver support twice a year. Because we'll all get overloaded. Nature does a cleansing. The animals do a cleansing spring and fall to get ready for the tough winter and to recoup after the tough winter. And it makes sense. You don't need to do a liver flush. Give the liver what it needs to do its job. Most people find they sleep better, poop better, and digest better doing that. There's also a lot of people like capsules, something like the super milk thistle. It's a blend again of the same herbs in capsule form. So there's all different ways to do it. On the right side is digestive enzymes. Digest Basic, low dose, covers all the food, most of the food groups. But if you have a little bit of a problem, if someone has a lot of gas and a lot of digestive problems, you want Digest Gold. That's the gold standard. That's the #1 enzyme blend in the country. And the amount of enzymes you need balances out with how big your problem is and how much food you eat. Someone who eats like a bird doesn't need Digest Gold because there's more enzymes than food they're going to put in. Another great one is Optozyme. This one is a vegetarian-based enzyme. This one has some bile in it. So people who've had the gallbladder out, if they're taking enzymes and say it helps, but not, still have problems, this is phenomenal. And a lot of people that are very gassy aren't making enough good bile. So taking something with the bile in it can be very, very helpful.
How many billions of probiotics?
We'll get to that as we're going down. Omega-3, very important. How many people take an omega-3 supplement? Good for you. You don't need mega doses unless you're treating a specific medical condition. But it's an essential fatty acid. We can't make it, and we need it to live. And so that's very, very important. It's a great anti-inflammatory. And IBS is an inflammatory bowel problem. Constipation, there's inflammation there. Arthritis, skin problems. Everyone should be taking it. The best gift a pregnant woman can give her unborn child is a probiotic and a good omega-3. The baby is going to suck the mother dry. And if there isn't enough, the baby is behind the 8 ball before it's even born. Fish oil comes many different ways. It comes in capsules. It comes in low dose. What you want to look at is always look on the back and check, because it's very hard now. It used to be these numbers were always for 1 capsule, but now it's a serving size, and the manufacturer can decide what a serving is. So you want to look at how many capsules they're talking about, and a good way to compare apples to apples, how much EPA there is. So some companies will tell you there's 930 milligrams of EPA, and that's great, but then you look up and that's in 6 capsules. This one is 430 milligrams in 1 capsule. Some of them are 180. Not better, not worse, but you need to know what you're taking. They also make it in liquid form, which is the same thing as a capsule. So a teaspoon of this one has 1,300 milligrams of EPA. Now, if you get a good fish oil, shouldn't be any fish odor or any fish taste. So, Pharmax makes a good one that has, I think, 1,950 milligrams. They're both excellent. This is orange flavor, this is mango flavored.
How do you know how much you should have?
Depends upon what you're doing. In general, probably 400-600 milligrams of EPA is a good baseline. If you have any inflammatory conditions or arthritis or irritable bowel, you want to crank it up slowly. For cholesterol balancing, you want at least 1,000 milligrams a day, divided doses. All these are nice, pure products. This company, besides it being mango flavored, most people don't like taking the oil even if it tastes good, because when you pour it out, then it dribbles down and eventually you get a greasy bottle. This company, rocket science, they put a little insert, a no drip insert. Now, I don't know why they all don't do that. Yes.
What is EPA?
It's
Icosapentaenoic.
acid. It's one of the essential fatty acids in fish oil. There's EPA and DHA, and they abbreviate them because they're big names that I can't say. So that's nice.
It does a lot. It's good for your skin, it's good for your eyes, it's good for your brain.
Yeah, great. We have kids in the spectrum that we start them on a good EPA, DHA, a good fish oil, and the teachers want to know what medicine they're on because their attention gets better. Yes.
So is it better then to get fish oil with EPA rather than vitamin D?
Yeah. Years ago, cod liver oil had vitamin A, vitamin D, EPA, and DHA. It had some of all of it. And most people took it for the vitamin A and D. Now that we're using higher levels of EPA and DHA, if you took the old cod liver oil, you could get toxic amounts of vitamin A. So now they pretty much separated it out. Cod liver oil, for the most part, is A and D, and fish oil doesn't have much A and D. It has mainly the EPA and DHA. So yeah, it's what you're taking. So yes.
What if you eat like 1 or 2 servings of salmon a week, and that's
If you are eating fresh Alaskan salmon right out of the water,
yes, wild
if you
caught.
ate maybe 7, 8, 10 servings a day, you'd get enough, because we're supposed to be getting it in other foods too, and it's not there.
7 or 8 servings a day, eh?
No, every single day you have to have a big peak. Now another problem is not just, again, we're back to balance, not just the amount of omega-3, it's how much omega-6 you're getting. And our diet is overloaded in omega-6. That's pro-inflammatory. We need omega-6. That makes the cell membranes and lets nutrients go in and waste product go out. Ideally or realistically, we should have 3 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. So that'll help the body balance inflammation. And I started with inflammation's healthy. If we have too much omega-6, we have a little inflammation that blows way up, and the body can't calm it down. Our diet, not the standard American diet, but a modified American diet, so you're eating healthier, is between 20 to 30 parts omega-6 to every 1 omega-3.
Do you have even healthy diet?
Yeah,
Why?
and the main reason is we drove it that way. We wanted to be able to buy baked goods and box goods that we could put on the shelf, and they're good for a year or 2. And if you go to Whole Foods or Stop and Shop and you buy one of the healthy crackers, it probably has a 3-month expiration that goes rancid, because if it's made with the good fats go bad, whereas the bad fats don't. One of the schools did an experiment. They took a tub of Crisco, which is the bad fat. They had the kids run their hand on the floor, and then they each put handprints in the jar of Crisco. They closed it up for a few months, left it on a shelf at 70 degrees, and a few months later they opened it up, nothing was growing in it. Even the bacteria, there's nothing nutritious there for them. The bacteria know not to eat it. They were in there and they died. There was nothing for them to live on. You make bread the way Grandma used to make it, and you leave it on the counter, 2 days later there's mold growing on it, and it's hard as a rock. We don't want that. We want the Wonder Bread 3 weeks later, we want to pull out a nice soft slice. We want the Italian bread or the French bread, not the next day to use it as a baseball bat. We want to be able to eat it. That was made properly. A muffin shouldn't stay moist for 4 or 5 days if you forget to close the bag.
Right.
So we've done that. Also, we've taken omega-3 out of most foods because then they go rancid faster. Nuts, good source of omega-3. My grandparents used to have the bowl of nuts on the table with the nut crackers and whatever you call the little tool to dig them out and all that. And after we eat, I remember my grandfather always using the nut cracker, and part of the shell would go flying, and my grandmother would yell at him, and it was just all part of growing up, and it was a riot. But in a half hour, you wound up with a handful of nuts, of the meat. Whereas now we go to Trader Joe's, how many of you could pound down a pound of almonds in 10 minutes? You just keep pouring them in your hand and in your mouth. And plenty of omega-3, but too many calories. So what do? It's loaded with fat, it's loaded with calories, it isn't healthy, we stop eating nuts. Eggs have cholesterol in them. Cholesterol's a no-no. We stopped eating eggs. We took all this great food, everything in moderation. So if we start eating nuts and using olive oil and eating more real fish that's fresh and we get right away, which we don't because nobody fishes in the air. Everything's shutting down on the East Coast. It all has to be flown in. And so we're not getting the quantities we should by eating healthy. Now granted, eating healthy, you're getting a lot more than you normally would if you were eating all the processed foods. But we do need some supplementation. Now the second part of it is, can you do this and then eat whatever you damn please? Yes, if you want to die young and miserable. You have to eat, you have to have a good lifestyle, you have to exercise, you have to be in good relationships. Stress, 80% of the things that stress us we have no control over. So what we have to do, one of my consult clients, an elderly woman, told me she said that she found out the answer for happiness in life. And she said it's not trying to change the people that aggravate you. You're never going to change those situations. So put the energy into just feeling bad for them, but letting them think they're doing it right and figure out a way to work around them. Instead of, she said, how many times can you run into a wall and then all of a sudden realize, well, there's a door there, I could go around the wall. And I looked at her and said, yeah, that's right, but how do you do that? And in a few small areas, it took a lot of work, but I tried it, and I feel bad for the person that's making all this extra work for themselves, but why should they drag me down? If you offer to help and they don't want the help, figure out how to go around them. That'll make you happier. You'll sleep better. If you're sleeping better, you're going to do phase 1, phase 2 better. How many people, when you're constipated and you finally have a good movement, you feel like a million? Yeah? So what if you're slightly constipated all the time? You're miserable. You could be a lot happier. And you could be eating less. If you're constipated, you're not getting the nutrients out. Brain works on measuring nutrients, so it says you're hungry. Did you ever eat dinner and then a half hour later you're in the kitchen grazing, your stomach's out to here, you have your pants unbuckled, but you're hungry? You had a big pasta meal. Blood sugar went up, blood sugar went down, the brain wants glycogen. You're hungry, but you have 1,500 calories sitting there, but they're the wrong calories. So if you ate a little less pasta and had some protein, you wouldn't be hungry. So it's everything in moderation. Every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or helping fight disease. Again, not rocket science, but it makes sense. You want to avoid, do I not have caffeinated beverages? I have a cup of coffee every morning. When I was in college, I would drink 5, 6 cups. Finally, when I realized if I had a pot of coffee studying at night and I could get into bed and go to sleep, I'm drinking too much coffee. And so you want everything in moderation. Eat fermented products.
Where's the best place to buy those?
The
Fermented foods.
a lot of the supermarkets now are have some good quality things. Even Stop and Shop is putting in some. Whole Foods, Trader Joe's has some. The local farm stands, and they're coming back.
Has to be
Yeah.
raw, right? Not
Yeah.
cooked.
Yeah. Don't microwave anything. When you microwave something, you deactivate the enzymes and kill you kill a lot of the vitamins. So you microwave, use it to, somebody just told me they use their microwave now, they heat up their boots before they waterproof them. And because it makes the leather softer, and that's all the microwave's used for, and then storing things in it. But if you can't take 10 minutes to reheat something, then, thank you.
We have it in the refrigerator.
This is a
Oh, no.
real
Just
old-fashioned,
finished one of those.
long-term, thank you,
Sauerkraut.
grown sauerkraut. And so it is, and it's delicious.
What kind is it?
Why is
Probably-
fermented food so good for you?
Because it's made by the bacteria. So when you're eating it, it's made by nature, but you're getting all those good bacteria, so you don't have to take so many of them in a pill.
Does it
And you're
have the
getting the
full
food that it
range?
eats too.
Yeah.
It does
And
have
each of the
range.
fermented foods, different is overlap with different bacteria. Plus, if you think about it, how many of you remember coming home and the house smelled good a lot of the nights? Somebody was home cooking. Grandma was either over because she lived next door if Mom was working, or Mom would be cooking, and dinner took some time to prepare, and then it would cook, so it smelled good. Now we buy the cooked foods, come home and throw it in the microwave, or we reheat food in the microwave, or we buy something that doesn't take long to cook. Right.
On average, how long should it take for the digestive system from the time we eat to the time it goes out?
Yes.
Since you're saying multiple movements a day.
I would say what you eat for breakfast today should be coming out tomorrow.
Morning, afternoon?
It depends upon you and what you're eating.
Okay.
If you eat a very fatty meal, it takes longer to break it down. One way to see is have a few kernels of corn, because that doesn't digest in anybody, and you can see the little yellow things. But generally, we really should. The proper time to have your first bowel movement is when you first get up or after breakfast, because the liver dumped everything. It's nasty stuff, and the body wants to get rid of it. Or you start eating, and you get the peristaltic movement going. Clean out the body to get going. Not everyone does. A lot of people, it's in the evening, because everyone. What if you're the person that you get up, you eat, and you have to go, leave the house? So you trained your body not to have that morning dumping. But then when you get to work, you might. Couple other things I wanted just to mention quickly. Aloe, great for the skin. Concentrated aloe, very good for constipation. It's not an irritant laxative. But But if you take it when you don't need it, it can cause diarrhea, because it gets that peristaltic movement moving. So what you can do is this can be used on and off, one capsule as needed, or if you are constipated, you take one every night till things start moving. Then you talk to us or you think about it, and if things are moving, then you try going every other night or every third night. And if things are still moving, well, you put it on the shelf and remember where you put it. Or you can help the economy by misplacing it and buy another one if you get a little backed up. But very, very good, but it shouldn't be, nobody should need this every day forever. So that's one thing. Another great one, because people don't like going to the supermarket, buying food and eating it. Ready, Set, how cute name, Ready, Set, Go. This was designed for kids, but there's doses on here for adults. Rocket science, no. Plum extract, fig extract, psyllium seed, fennel, caraway, coriander, and gingerroot. All the things we should be eating or using to season our food that help us with the bowel. But we like things simple. Tablespoon, go to the bathroom. Not explosive. Yes?
On the box of Total, they have a long list of vitamins, and so it says it is 100% of everything.
Okay.
Is that true? Can we
Okay.
rely on
A lot of vitamins say 100%. Then I get a lot of people that will say, gee, I looked at this and it has 3,333%. That's way too much. That percentage, there's a committee in the federal government, and we know how efficient they are, whatever committee it is. They meet every couple of years to decide what's the minimum daily adult amount, the 100%. They haven't changed it in decades. And the reason they haven't changed it is not that they think where it is good. The doctors on that panel, each one says it should be higher, and they can't agree how high, so they shelve it till next year. So it hasn't gone up. The 100% of vitamin C is, I think, 54 milligrams prevents scurvy. So you don't want to be I'm one step away from scurvy, or I'm one step away from rickets. You want to be in the healthy zone. So there should be the recommended daily amount, which is what keeps you healthy, not keeps you from getting scurvy. If you eat a fresh apple that you picked, you're getting about 3,000 times the amount of vitamin C that the RDA is. So I guess we should only have a bite of apple. Nobody should eat an apple. So those numbers are almost useless. That's to prevent a hideous disease. So it gives us no information. Very good question. Yes?
My son has psyllium every day, just about.
Yeah?
You know, the big containers that
Yeah.
Is that good for his digestion? He seems to think it's great.
And now, does he need that? Evidently, yes. But if he ate more good, raw, fresh fruits and vegetables, he could be getting enough fiber that way.
Okay. So it's
But-
fiber. Yeah.
But it's a mix. Now, I have steel-cut oats 3-4 days for breakfast. I alternate between a little flaxseed or hemp seed or psyllium seed. I add a little more in. There's plenty of fiber in the steel-cut oats, but you can get too much fiber, but most of us don't get enough fiber. So that's very good as long as it's a nice, clean product.
I get muscle cramps, so I take magnesium. Sometimes I take a little too much, and it just goes right through me. Is that a bad thing?
Well, it depends upon where you are and who's around you. Question was, he gets leg cramps, and so he takes magnesium, which is helpful, but if he takes a little too much, he gets diarrhea. That's very common. I'd want you to let me know, look at the bottle, what type of magnesium. Magnesium citrate and oxide don't get absorbed that well, so most of it stays in the bowel. Anyone take a bottle of citrate of magnesia before a colonoscopy? It cleans you out from, maybe that's where my hair went, from here down. Magnesium orotate, magnesium glycinate, some of it stays in the bowel, but the majority of it gets into the bloodstream. We have a huge problem now, and of course pharmaceutically we always have a solution. There is now a drug for restless leg that works in about 25% of the people. It's $9 to $10 a tablet. Most people with restless leg is a magnesium deficiency. A bottle of 100 magnesium is under $20.
Is it okay to take long term?
Well, yes, because why are we having this problem? The soil should be loaded with magnesium, and all the deep green leafy vegetables should have more magnesium than we need. We're not rotating crops. The soil is deficient, so we're not getting the amount we should in our diet. Now also, there's a product called Calm, it's a powder.
Yes, yeah.
Peter Gillam's.
Great marketing, because you have to boil water, you take a scoop and you have to stir it in, you have to wait till it cools, and then you drink it down. Magnesium is very calming to the central nervous system. When we're stressed, we burn through magnesium trying to calm ourselves down. So they are great. People say that works better than my magnesium citrate that I'm using. Why? Because you have to take a break for 10 minutes and have a cup of, not tea, but a cup of magnesium. So yes, it's a great product and it works. If it was in a capsule, it would work too, if you would calm down and slow down, get off the treadmill. Everyone is probably magnesium deficient.
Although it's
When
also more bioavailable because it is a powder.
and it's not magnesium citrate.
Which ones are good magnesium?
Orotate, glycinate. The ones you want to stay away from is mainly the citrate and the oxide. But you want, some of them are a blend, like this one is a blend. It has citrate, orotate, and glycinate. So there is some citrate, because most people that need magnesium, that works on the the smooth muscle in the bowel. So some citrate, you want to help the bowel and the body. So again, everything in moderation. But yours probably has more oxide or citrate, and once you cross that line, it comes out. But magnesium is excellent.
What do you feel about ionic solutions?
ionic solutions, a lot of them are more bioavailability than a lot of products. Now, what I love is a company will say, ours is more effective than all the ones out there. There are a lot of very good ways. If you have a well-formulated, even a tablet, it can be very highly absorbable, but a poorly formulated tablet will come out in the other end. One of the California counties spent more money on undissolved pills clogging a sewage treatment plant than anything else. And, you know, that's really a shame. That's a waste of a lot of money on the sewage treatment plant, but on all the people. So it's knowing what you're buying, who made it, and who you're buying it from. Because you want it to be a quality product that's backed with tests that it is formulated properly. So ionic is very good. Do you need everything ionic, or do you need everything in powder form? If you're comparing powder or ionic to a big box store's vitamin, night and day, you're much better off those ways. Compared to a well-formulated vitamin, depending upon your digestive system, it might be more effective, but the other one will work very well. So it doesn't have to be the most expensive house on the block to be a good house. And the same with the vitamins. If it's $90 a bottle, it doesn't make it better than a $20 bottle. But if it needs to be $90 for what's in there, and you're buying a $20 bottle, the label is very good, but you're not swallowing the label. You're swallowing the product.
Can the malabsorption of your digestive system cause sinus problems?
Can malabsorption in the digestive system cause sinus problems? Yes, because if you have bad gut, you're leaking, and things that causes inflammation in the sinuses, and it causes allergies or allergy reactions to be worse. Your body only has this much bandwidth to deal with things, and if you have a leaky gut, it's using a lot of its effort trying to work on all those things that are getting absorbed, and it can't deal with the ragweed or the dust or the lack of humidity once the heat goes on. So then we start getting sick. So it's really keeping everything in balance.
How much water should we be drinking?
How much water should we be drinking? It's a factor of how much and how. You don't want to get up and knock back you need 5 glasses, knock them back 3 before I leave the house. One, you'll have an accident on the way to work because the bladder can't hold that much. You want to sip throughout the day, because if you think of washing your car, if you suds it up and you gently mist it, you can use a little bit of water and clean the car. If you have the fire department come with a 1-second blast of however many hundreds of gallons, the car's still filthy. So it's sipping. Let the body use it. That'll bring nutrients in and waste product out. You should only have to urinate about every 2.5 hours. If you're going every 20 minutes, the body's it's going in and it has to get rid of it. The reason for that is when you drink the water, it gets absorbed into the bloodstream. And you have a bunch of electrolytes in there and a bunch of minerals, and the body wants to keep the concentration where it needs to be. If you pump in way too much water and the body doesn't eliminate it right away, you're diluting the sodium and the magnesium and the potassium, and you could have a heart attack. So it goes right out and you're urinating every 20 minutes. A good target, and it's loose, so don't go right to the ounce. Take your body weight, divide it by 2, and that's a target of how many ounces to slowly work up to, because most of us don't drink anywhere near enough. So you want to sip through the day. You don't want to go from drinking 8 ounces to 80 ounces in one day. You'll come back and want to kill me. You'll be up all night. You'll have to bring changes of clothes. You'll be having accidents. Slowly do it. Yes?
Yeah, what causes leg cramps, and should you do something for it?
The leg cramps, they used to say it was potassium, but now they're finding more and more people it's either dehydration, you're not drinking enough, or it's magnesium. And more often than not, it's magnesium. And lack of it. And it's really amazing. People come in and say they have leg cramps or restless leg, and as I'm talking to them, I'll say, of course, because I'm a bowel boy, how are your bowels? Are you constipated? And they'll say, how did you know? Or someone comes in, I only go to the bathroom every 3 days. By any chance have leg cramps? Or your wife say at night you're kicking her and all that? And they go, yeah, how do you know that? Not rocket science. They go hand in hand. But you can sound, if somebody tells you they have restless leg, ask them how their bowels are. They'll either stop talking to you or they'll think you're brilliant. Most of the time, they keep talking to you, I found.
Could you say just a little bit about what constitutes an anti-inflammatory diet?
Okay, anti-inflammatory diet. Yes, if anyone emails me, you can take my card, my email's on there. I have a chart that I wish I made it, but some doctor made it, the anti-inflammatory diet. It's basically eating the raw fruits and vegetables, nuts, omega-3s, a little animal protein, cutting way back on white flour, white sugar, processed foods. And, an anti-inflammatory diet, it really shouldn't be called an anti-inflammatory diet. It should be called eating the way we're supposed to. And if you eat the way you're supposed to, you can go out and have the piece of cheesecake or a muffin once in a while from Dunkin' Donuts with the too much omega-6, and your body will be fine because it's not overloaded. But if you want, it's a nice, colorful food pyramid. And I'll be glad to send it to you.
Could I just say something about that?
Yes.
With your fruits and your vegetables, your strawberries, your blueberries, if you cut it open and it's white inside, you're not getting the full nutrition in that.
It wasn't fine, it either isn't good or it wasn't fine right. The colors.
Dark.
Anyone walk into the supermarket, go buy the fruits and vegetables and look at iceberg lettuce and salivate. I can hardly wait to go take a bite out of that. There's nothing nutritious in there except for fiber and water. But how come our eyes automatically track to the plums and the apples and the real strawberries in season and the dark green leafy vegetables, and when peppers are running, all the different color peppers? Even if you don't like peppers, your eye goes there. Because nature wanted us, the women were gatherers, and that was where the nutrients were. And so it makes us do that. How many people aren't really meat eaters, but every once in a while you want just one little bite of meat? Or you don't like pasta, but every once in a while you want some pasta. Or you're not really a vegetable eater, but you have a second helping one night. Your body is telling you what it wants. We don't go out and gather. We open the refrigerator, and dinner tonight is what we bought on sale or what was left over. And sometimes you go in and you go, I can hardly wait to eat that. And other times you're standing there looking at the refrigerator and air conditioning the whole house, and there's plenty of good food. Nothing strikes you. That's because what your body's looking for isn't there. You're supposed to be going out in the wild and shooting at a gathering. But we don't do that. We eat, usually if you're a guy, what, thank God, your significant other has on the table for you. Yes?
What about green tea? How much should you drink?
Green tea is good for you. There's a lot of phytonutrients in there that are even anti-cancer. I'm sorry?
It's also caffeine.
There's also caffeine, so you don't want to have too much, but a cup of green tea is healthy. 6 cups isn't. Chamomile. How many people use chamomile tea to help them fall asleep? Or to relax? A cup or two of chamomile is very calming. But it's a bell curve. You have 6 cups of chamomile, it'll clean your whole house all night. You'll be up for the whole night. How can something that helps you relax keep you up? Everything in moderation. Okay? Yes?
When you say there are limit gas producing foods, how many times a week can you have like beans?
What was the question?
Limiting gas producing foods. I'll say once a week, never, or 3 times a day. It depends upon your person. Some people can eat beans till the cows come home and never have a problem. Some people will have a few beans and some soup and they'll be miserable for a day. But if you can't even have a little bit, something's going on, and talk to us, because there are enzymes that you can add that will help break them down, all the different food groups, and there's separate enzymes.
What
Yes?
about protein shakes? Are they healthy or not?
Protein shakes, are they healthy or not? If it's a good protein shake to use as a supplement, not as instead of food, yes, if you are busy or at work one day, you're not going to be able to have lunch, having a well-formulated protein shake gives you the nutrients you need. But to say, great, I can have this 2 meals a day and then just eat breakfast, that's not healthy. You need to eat. Nature gave us the food, and it should be fun.
Yeah.
Yes?
You say no white flour, so what's the best bread to
Okay. Almost everything you buy will have some white flour, but not 100% white flour. You want to have the mix of the different grains, so it's not overloaded with one. Just eating whole wheat bread, it really isn't wheat anymore. That isn't good. But if you alternate the different breads, and get the real breads. When you pick up a loaf of bread, you shouldn't be able to just pick it up. You should have to two-hand it. It should be heavy. That's the real bread that Grandma used to make. If you get a loaf like this and it weighs 8 ounces,
Nothing new.
no. You're better off eating a Dunkin' Donuts muffin. At least there's something in there. I'll end it with this. This is a picture of a little kid. Bad eczema. It's all coming from the gut. And what do? We put cortisone on. And then eventually, if the eczema gets worse, we put them on immunosuppressants. We shut down the immune system so they won't have that reaction and they're cured. But they wind up getting very sick. Whenever you have a skin issue, Chinese say the skin is a window into the digestive system. And I'll go back, I should have put in